Welcome back to Machete Bushcraft Australia. My name is Ben and I'm the owner of North Arm Machete Co. And today's topic is machetes and fire lighting. Why do I use machetes and fire lighting? Simply because I've always got a machete with me, and that's reason number one. The second reason is that it's a very reliable and predictable way for me to have access to fire when I'm out in the bush. It doesn't matter how wet, how cold, or how humid it is, I'll always have access to firewood because I can chop it. I always have access to kindling because I can snap branches. And the third thing, which is probably the most important thing for me, is always having access to really dry and light, fluffy tinder. If you don't know what tinder is, if you actually look at how you build a fire, the tinder lights the kindling and the kindling lights the firewood. It's a very simple way of actually looking at it. I'm also going to demonstrate a card scraper edge. And if you're unfamiliar with what a card scraper edge is, it's actually another edge. It's a secondary edge that we can put on the back of a machete. And there's some really great advantages to this. One of them being is that to sharpen this out in the field, you're actually just using the same file and the same pocket stone that I used last week in last week's sharpening video. But more on that in a moment. If you bear with me for a second, I'm going to go process some wood and I'll show you how it's done. Thanks very much. Okay, I'm just going to go and process this tree that's lying on the ground here. I don't like my chances. It's actually quite thick wattle, very hard, dense material. It'll probably be about the limit that I'd process for any fire anyway, but I'll give it a go. Okay guys, if you've been having problems with using fire steels when you're at the bush, it's generally one of two reasons. Number one is your tinder is not dry enough, and number two is it's not fine enough. And that's one of the real advantages of using a card scraper on a machete, is that you can very quickly and easily find dry tinder just about wherever you are. Now with this technique, I'm not using much force at all, and I'm not pushing forward. I'm actually sliding to the side, and you end up with these tiny little ribbons of tinder. As you can see, it happens very quickly. The other thing you might notice as well is that I was using very little force on this fire steel. The advantage here of this being so sharp is that if you do use too much force, it actually cuts off big ribbons of steel, which doesn't ignite. You actually need a really gentle touch to get these to strike when you've got a sharp card scraper edge on the back. I should note, that's actually with fairly green timber. This piece of pine here, I actually just cut that off the end of this stick here. And as you can see, it's fairly green. It's been on the ground for about 3 weeks. It came down in a storm. So even this technique here works quite well, considering that this tinder, is actually still fairly green. Guys, thanks very much for watching our video on fire lighting and machetes out in the bush. If you like this and you found it helpful, you can help us by clicking the like button and the subscribe button. It actually means a lot. Next week's video, I'm going to do a lot more effort on trying to demystify the card scraper edge. It's a very simple, old-fashioned piece of technology, and the real advantage to it is that the same bits of equipment that you use to field sharpen your machete, you can use these to actually sharpen and maintain your card scraper edge. Until next week, thanks very much, and I'll see you then.